Americans for Fair Taxation presents the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, President of Americans for Fair Taxation, and recorded by Bob Paxton, a volunteer with the Florida FAIRtax Educational Association. And now, this week's Chairman's Report.
Hello, I'm Bob Paxton with the AFFT Chairman's Report for Friday, September 29th, 2023. Meet your new IRS Auditor. In life, when we go to a professional to get work done, we look to find people who have a good reputation for reliability and for doing good work. If our car needs repair, we look for a mechanic who is skilled in repairing our type of car and will not take advantage of us. If we need to see a dentist, we look for one who's known to provide good service. If we have a medical problem, we look for a doctor who specializes in treating our particular condition and who has a record of getting good results. So, what does it say about the IRS when they have to hire people who are not really trained in tax accounting or very much in accounting at all? They're reduced to hiring people who usually, because of their college degree type, can't find a job making $50,000 a year with the hours, days off, and other benefits a federal government job provides. Learn.org published an article entitled, "How Can I Become an IRS Auditor?" They included data from the IRS website. Now here's some of the points. The different types of Internal Revenue Service agents who conduct tax audits include tax examiners, Internal Revenue agents, and tax compliance officers. As a tax examiner, you'll review simple tax filings from individuals and small businesses. Your responsibilities will mostly include inputting tax returns and confirming the accuracy of the information they hold. Internal Revenue agents work with much more complicated tax filings. As an entry-level Internal Revenue agent, you'll audit small businesses, educate taxpayers about the tax code, and assist businesses and organizations in ensuring tax compliance. If you're an experienced accounting professional, you could work as a senior-level Internal Revenue agent. In that case, you'll audit the tax returns of large corporations, businesses, and other complex entities. You'll determine if these entities' tax returns comply with the Internal Revenue Code, and you'll deal with complicated tax issues, including tax shelters and corporate reorganizations. You could also specialize in examining specific tax issues, such as employment tax, financial products, and international transactions. If you'd like to work as an IRS tax examiner, you must hold a bachelor's degree or have at least 1 year's experience as an accountant, tax analyst, or bookkeeper. According to the IRS, to be eligible to apply for an entry-level Internal Revenue agent position, you must be a U.S. citizen who holds a bachelor's degree or has an equivalent amount of work experience along with 30 semester hours of coursework in accounting. To qualify as a tax compliance officer, you should have a bachelor's degree in business or a related field with 6 semester hours of coursework in accounting, or be able to pass a test that measures your proficiency in accounting. According to the IRS, there are several ways to qualify as a senior-level Internal Revenue agent. You could have a bachelor's degree or higher in accounting with at least 30 semester hours of coursework in accounting. You can be a certified public accountant or have educational and work experience that's equivalent to a bachelor's degree in accounting. Additionally, you must have a minimum of 1 year's experience in auditing or accounting. As an IRS auditor, you'll enjoy a 40-hour work week that allows you to have a good work-life balance. All entry-level positions will afford you great advancement opportunities, and additionally, as a federal government employee, you'll receive great health insurance benefits, a retirement fund, and tuition assistance. The median salary is $55,640, but highly experienced accountants can earn up to $125,000. In conclusion, the Internal Revenue Code is extremely complicated. Tax professionals who work for large corporations and high-income earners are paid between $400 and $1,500 an hour. That's because they've spent years dealing with the tax code and constructing tax strategies that have withstood court challenges. Now, these are the people that the IRS agents will come up against when they audit the people making over $400,000 a year or huge corporations or partnerships. So when you have a government worker who goes home at 5 p.m. and has a heavy caseload, just how successful do you think these bureaucrats are going to be? Now, this problem's even worse when new agents try to audit small businesses. These businesses will be represented by tax preparers who have handled many similar audits, have a good understanding of the tax code and the rules. They'll know much more about tax matters than some newly hired IRS agent who may have a college degree in history or art and a few hours of basic accounting. Now, these new agents know that they were hired to catch the cheaters who are illegally evading their taxes to the tune of over $1 trillion a year. The problem is that people who are cheating don't self-identify. They don't label their returns, "We cheated." Quite the contrary. They do everything they can to make their returns look legitimate. So how will new agents collect money from people they audit if they don't have the skills and experience needed to outwit these skilled and experienced cheaters? Well, they'll use the time-tested method the IRS has used since the passage of the first income tax law in 1913. They will simply assert a tax deficiency whether one actually exists or not. These IRS agents know that they're being paid by the government. They also know that fighting an IRS assessment is a costly proposition. These new agents will learn quickly from their colleagues that they really have a license to just take whatever they want, whether it's actually owed or not. They know that many taxpayers will find that it costs much more in time and money to fight an unjust assessment than it would to just pay what the IRS is demanding. They know that many tax professionals will advise their clients to just go ahead and pay it because it's not worth the time and expense it would take to put up a fight. So the taxpayer caves in and makes the payment. Now, he's no doubt rather upset about being extorted, but he also knows that it's to his advantage to settle the case quickly before the auditor comes up with even more alleged tax deficiencies. Now, you say that's not right. Well, you're right, it isn't. However, very little about the corrupt and incomprehensible federal income payroll tax code is fair or right. Unfortunately, just about any tax practitioner will tell you that that's standard operating procedure for many IRS agents. Now, some are good and honest, but all of them are under pressure to perform. The IRS expects an audit to produce additional tax revenue, and the best auditors are the ones who bring in the most money. So, how do we stop this legalized extortion? We replace the income payroll tax system with the FAIRtax. When we pass the FAIRtax, there will no longer be an IRS that audits and extorts taxpayers. Now, there will be some people in D.C. who will be needed to monitor the FAIRtax collections from the states. However, the IRS, 260 million tax returns, and countless wasted American taxpayer hours spent trying to comply will all be gone. The only reason to have the complex income payroll tax system is to give jobs to bureaucrats, give D.C. control over how much of our incomes we get to keep, and to provide politicians with an ATM machine to finance their campaigns. So why would D.C. pass the FAIRtax and give up this almost unlimited source of donations? Well, they won't, not voluntarily anyway. The only way is if the rest of us demand it. Now, Congress and D.C. know that there's a better alternative to the present system, the FAIRtax. So instead of spending time and money doing endless hours of paperwork that don't create anything of value for yourself, your family, or the nation, why not eliminate the unnecessary waste? The FAIRtax transfers power from the government and bureaucrats to the people. We, not the bureaucrats in D.C., will decide how much tax we pay. Isn't it time to end this ludicrous tax collection system and the IRS along with it? When the FAIRtax is enacted, there will be no need to fear being audited by the IRS or raided by armed IRS agents because there will be no more IRS. Now, there's going to be a vote on the FAIRtax in the House of Representatives. Speaker McCarthy and the other elites didn't want it, but it was forced on them. So, we now have the opportunity to force all members of the House to show where they stand. They can vote for the present income payroll tax system, or they can vote for the FAIRtax. They can support the corrupt income tax in the IRS, or they can vote to eliminate it. It can't be any simpler than that. They can hide the true cost of their government, or they can pass the FAIRtax and show everyone the true cost of government on every retail receipt. And finally, they can support the largest transfer of power from government to the people, the FAIRtax, or they can vote against it. Now, if members think the FAIRtax needs to be changed, they can propose the change. Don't let them get away with rejecting the entire bill because it has a flaw in it that can be easily addressed. Please stand with us and demand that your representatives support a much fairer, much simpler, and much more efficient way to fund the government, the FAIRtax. Now, the FAIRtax doesn't pick winners and losers. Because it taxes spending, not earnings, the FAIRtax lets everyone save for their retirement tax-free. The FAIRtax will allow us to take back control. The income payroll tax system is broken. It's no longer working. We can't repair it, but we can replace it with the FAIRtax. So join us and take back control of our country and our lives, not with bullets, but with the elimination of one of the biggest threats to our liberty and economic prosperity, the income payroll tax. We should all remember Edmund Burke's warning that applies to our efforts to take back control. Nobody made a greater mistake than he who did nothing because he could only do a little. We should also remember this quote from George Orwell's 1984, which, if we do nothing, may foretell your and your children's future. If you want to picture the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. So what can each of us do? We can write letters and make calls to our elected representatives and attend Zoom town hall meetings demanding that if they really want to allow Americans to take back control, the first step is to eliminate the income payroll tax system and enact the FAIRtax. Take back control. Help us pass the FAIRtax. Help us bring about real tax reform and stop future IRS abuses. By contributing or investing $10.40 a month, you help provide a financial base to Americans for fair taxation. Now, if you can make larger contributions/investments, these will be used not for salaries, as we're all volunteers, but for the needed updates to our economic studies, which will be vital for all future years. Please go to fairtax.org and invest in AFFT. It's an investment in your and your family's future.
This has been the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, President of Americans for Fair Taxation. Check back every week for news and information about the fair tax, and learn why the fair tax should replace our antiquated federal income tax system. If you'd like to receive a copy of the Chairman's Report in your inbox every week, sign up at fairtax.org.